Oh.
Hey, Kate.
Yeah?
The younger generation has shown up to hear you. You see her out there.
Yay!
Yeah.
Thanks, Amathea.
Good afternoon once again, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome. Wow, I have like a lot of echo on my voice. I'm going to flatten me out. This is the voice of... we're super excited to launch our very first official poetry jam. Henry, who was here, Henry Lefkowitz, who was here somewhere, and Tracy Buchanan were here last fall. They were kind enough to be our guinea pigs, and it was absolutely stunning. When the Refuge welcomes a performer, I promise you the performer will know it. And I ran across Kate and Dave through Rob Hinkle's first virtual, and then Silver Spring also, right? Open mics. And I don't really want to set this up too much more other than that. If you have not experienced Kate Buckholdt before, you are about to experience her. And she is thrilled to have with her today, I know, Dave Benham on the flute, who you were earlier with Heather. And Dave's got a few tricks in his pocket as well. So that's about all I'm going to tell you. We got a half hour to roll.
Wonderful.
Kate, Dave, it's all yours.
Thank you. Yeah, no, that's good. I don't know. I guess you can take from these stories. Some of them are more of poems and insights and things like that. This first one is a story of a complicated relationship taking place out in the woods, and that's all I'll say. If anyone wants a paper with the art that I made for this particular poem and some excerpts from some of these pieces, you're more than welcome. Okay. In the woods, a snapping turtle and a little creature underground come out synchronized after both being down and deeply inside. So as chance would have it, their paths did collide. Both at the time were due to open woundedness aligned, and both bonded and obliged, pulled by his tides, tucked away by his side, her presence confided when he was of a mind to try. After failure, weather is changing, and here on the ground, a panic spins up a dust cloud of doubts he's shrouded in now. How timely. He ducked under that cloak, his domed temple called home. He's dry, she's soaked. He's in the cups, she's on a broken boat. She was scared wet, how could they forget? She sought shelter inside with him. He suggests instead perhaps a tent. And yet, they then later had a litter of brittle iterations. It was a bad batch, a bunch of short lit matches. Burned the mattress, fire then ice, bitter then nice. I mean, it warms, then burns, then cold shoulders return and fold before his face, mourn. She's almost ashes inside, so at least her lashes can finally dry. Until next time. She honors upon her departure. If she stays where she doesn't belong, she'll harden in her shell and she'll never share her song. Her limbs, ball and sockets, all dislocated by her ball and chain, or pocket watch and locket. If she's ever gonna grow, she knows she's gotta let it go. But then again, when above ground is thawing out and an urge to reemerge is again dawning, all along she'd sent tokens of longing, affection, and prayer for his protection. And finally, with his eye peering down her canal, he says, it's okay, you can come out now. Slow by nature, it's often time for fasting her. Before she'd buck, he'd steer, then flee, leaving her to be disappeared. She'd ask, explain that, because it just doesn't fit in my ears. When I'm banished after cheers of endearment, he must not fancy being revered, or it's the fantasy he feared. Slamming the door in her face like a guillotine, he becomes a rock to bounce her back like a trampoline. Last time that she's a boomerang, now that this here is a different scene. Dressed to his nines with shoes tied to the crime, caught by the smooth sole and size. Gotta fit those claws inside, right? She pondered at him. For a turtle, you sure are fawning hard. See, darling, face it, we were heralded and mauled. True story, more emotions over a fraudulent heart acting out duplicitous charm. And I noticed that we belong apart. We're caught in a six of sticks or tangled branches. Boiling blood, our best chance blanches. Hopeful romantics under garland vines and firefly lanterns. But these horseshoes rusted. Promises suffered combustion, and I prefer justice, not revenge. And justice is accountability at best. I need closure, not fixative, to not feel this conflicted. Oh, reptilian depicted, what was your real name again? Once again, we've wasted grace upon our backs and morning's light upon our lacks. The honeymoon came only after it's over. Ain't that so backwards? But this time their tree had died, and after a little while up, it fell to its side. Now this tree doesn't feed on the sun and the rain, and its roots are not sufficient for a little one to sustain. She must move on and transform, not so what's torn, be both reborn. And even though only he surrounds himself now, when the right one comes along, space will make itself inside that shell. And I think it's safe to say that they know now if they're ever gonna grow, they're gonna have to let it go. All right, pie. What holds me back from my center? Striving or a need to myself paint the picture. All I truly need is nonfiction, to learn the lessons, to not flee but instead cool heated kitchens, not get caught up in what I'm pitching, sometimes just listen. I'm finding splinters as I ask where and when they are from. Why do they now come to my surface? I must pluck them and then repurpose. I'm excited, not nervous. I'm imprinted by precursors, my own cursive, express and release, yet give space because it wasn't just me who was seized. I hold the present moment and in the knowing of its value. Sense of jasmine, and like a flower that blooms at night, I can shrink right into myself as the sun shows, as if I'm suddenly afraid or ashamed of my own shadow. The witching hour allows for purifying battles, so I'm nothing but thankful. I'm part of a greater cycle. In or out of human tandem, I'm pedaling, definitely not settling, and patience is the part of greater trust I'm currently learning. I can wait for an oasis. I can taste liberation from my damage, and also then what replaces it. I've reached the final stages of it. It's just scar tissue in the shapes of things that once hemmed me in to tailor fit again and again. All those outfits are down to the very last thread. And I am sleeping in a different bed. A river of light now runs through what was desert and dead or heavy as lead. I am an old soul. I am big and bold, yet still fragile and little and sometimes hard to hold or hold on to. Because spiritually, I am like a rolling stone. I am my home, and without effortless equality, I'm always moving right along, healing hurting through a song, or sonnet, or other process, or crystals in my palms. I have mantras, not mottos. I can't tell tomatoes from tomatoes, don't know what to call it, or if I'll feel back to normal 2 days from now or tomorrow. Certainly no longer. Corrective grace takes the place of the feeling I can't quite look at my face after a certain date. Regardless of who may be coming to, I'm awakened for something new. To give up my judgmental expectations of what I should and shouldn't do, and be sure first of what I'm giving and to whom. I will live, no longer live through it. I will give without the ego's need to prove it. I will maintain movement so I never lose it. I'm sometimes a teacher, but always a student. this is another story about a mule and her cowboy and then some Charlie horse. On a single pathway, horseshoe and cowboy prints on appliques to lay atop what seems a fine filly or fillet. Stuck between instinct to buck and need to play. Take heed to say she can't even measure the weight and cannot conflate. This levee may break with the wrong key. Sentiment so sweet she's getting double diabetes, taking breath between his lines like she's singing chocolate rain. Sprinkling enough to slip from old cuffs and chains and hopefully change. Rarely neutral and inadvertently transparent, barely brutal when compared to adolescent history and painstaking growth with the utmost lesson revisiting and trying to know a rescue rope from a chokehold through breathtaking glimpses of hope for something stable, free of masked thieves to jack the heart of a mare, trying to get bearings before catching feelings and high as this carriage doing wheelies that come down in a thump. Her heart drops through her trunk, broke by the big stick and her spokes suddenly ducking fly nuts and bolts. Now this damn thing won't go. It'll take time to be fine. The only way now is to walk slow, one step at a time, never flowed, jumping landing to landing. When will she open like a drawbridge, not a spring load, to flash the sight of a fast waning bow with his back to the rainbow? Don't say it ain't so, she's the one who made it so. Impeccable emotional logic with an impulse of a romantic barbarian sabotage until it fits him like a poor old gelding in an aquarium. She feels she's scaring him. This path is thin. Whether the scratching shrub side or the stream, someone's falling in and it ain't gonna be him. The muddy water's not safe for drinking. This damsel's inept at distressing, rearing her own investment. She's sinking. Hissed to herself, what were you thinking? She was dreaming, leaning to seamen seemingly blinking. Proceed with caution or reason. She feels less like them, and in her puddle she goes inward toward the mountain to the peak of this freak out, and he's at the other end of this free-flowing spout, dousing their ground, making it tricky to get out and slipping all over the spectrum. And meanwhile in his steady hand is all the integrity from all the lives his soul has been, and the swirling palm through ampersands dare not to man, rapid and ample closeness to understand. She takes a moment vapid, standing rampant, until that breeze of clarity held this mare a mirror to say that she is not her fears. Whipped into the shape of a cornered rectangle, angled, less shaken, but both trusting and afraid. Looking down the stream which trapped her in depth is really shallow, and she need not step onto the thin path previously laid. Looking up, her gait is stayed. Being wild and then wise is part and parcel of her stride. She won't follow the long arm just to talk to the hand of some non-suitor lost like a flipper in the sand, or built on just hickory bricks and smoke of thickening once sunk until the wrist sends her running. She is still quelling the thrill for what's really real, like a bond over time, changing with age and space, but always kind. Two of a mind to face all aspects of self, to be in love, well, to give, not sell, to show and telling action through the valleys and the curves of the bell, gaining traction by its full reflection, compelled. Never jealous of more primitive concept criteria, so never finished or limited with hard work to do. Either linguistic portraits of ebbs and swells on stitches, telling experience which makes this witness whistle and then melt. Whatever the blend is meant to be, it's solid, so she untangles her feet. This Charlie horse is a knot of many strands. This song she brays is to celebrate beings wild and free on mend. This is not the end.
Woo! Yeah.
Okay, go for it. All right, Respite. Everything takes longer when you're standing if you're waiting for it. I'm like, that 3-minute song was, I'm like, it's on repeat. Maybe one day crossing paths on X's on the road up high. But you have to get there on your own with separate lessons on your side. Rather than focus on the meaning, I mean to concern myself with the purpose. When hark, thou art not from where come these forces. Found myself on many courses, humble sorcerers and other moral enforcers on my path are choices. And I mustn't be crunched under gears on the cog wheel of fortunes, meeting ends and divorces. I'm really thinking, turning a phrase and freezing, seeking safety and narrowly seizing it. Some places hallowed when phases are harrowing. The big mouth is the difference between the dolphin and the porpoise, but both have teeth like me. I drift to sleep counting endorphins, hoping to wake to more of them. Memories haunt years from along Texas piers, seeing Selena and Corpus, and we're talking statues, not corpses. I'm sorry, I'm feeling morbid, because these months I've been so unsure of things. Then of course, here comes the queen, saving me again. When in despair, I beg, why could this still be happening? Again, she's been my respite from constant waving in countless folks, like getting drilled on the Virginia V steamboat, not rowing along alone, hoping to free this horse out of my throat. While tingling shoe water clapping, fuck the patriarchy, I'm writing liquid metaphors into the sunset. Only regret is delayed art of forgiveness. Yet offenses got relentless, and more than dented, getting dented while I'm chewing on resentment. I'm between nervous and terrified, but I don't mind your beeswax, honey, so please don't probe my hives. Only in the daughter of the son of Joseph do I so confide, with a little tremor and damp eyes, spilling baggage from the last guises and cringing through discussion touching on finances. It won't be like this in due time. Hyperverbal to compensate for where my neurodivergence defeats my ability to express or demonstrate. Trigger pushed for the resurgence of my traits, so childlike, like most my life that man, some partners sure were perverted. Especially that first one. Pin me his corsage, oh, monsieur, saw to this prom concussion of a panic pixie dream girl. I'd long moved on to become a different sort of trope, a host, to a misanthrope who pulled a fast one and perhaps too little time beneath me microscope. Best I take my leave when his seething rakes my sleeve. Oh, please don't plead, should his hindsight see through this relationship whose ghost is likely to remain. Its murder is fodder for many a refrain. I don't know where we were going, though I know I had to get here on my own. But it's never bad to be back to home, alone. On the path, no one had my back in the past. I had to get there on my own, but I no longer go down this path alone. I'm still in stitches, don't make me laugh. Just make my wishes come true. Over troubled waters, I've been burning bridges. My wound is healing, that's why it itches. Scrapes and scratches on backs and badges. I never asked why the sadness. Well, for God's sakes, they were all such savages. It'll take a lot to bring down those averages. Plus, I'm out of almost all my bandages. Can't count my damages. Can't thank the management. I've been abandonment. I'm just now dismantling it. And the loss at times leaves me leaning. At others, learning. More than that are the differences in or just past grieving. In staying or leaving. My past is dismissed from leading me. Just read me, I'm a loose leaf. Something's eating me while I have loose teeth. I was ruined by my truth speech. No one likes those talks, say preach. No matter how brief, my pen overheats and beats a path that leads to peace. My feet won't bleed at this pace, plus I'm clean. Look at this face, I'm ever me. You're forever free. Memories are like needles of an evergreen tree, hanging on like quills of me. Not for long, now my barks must breathe. My limbs must reach. My little twigs must touch. My main roots must eat, and they are still so buried and run so wild and deep. I must just be a ghost against a shadow, with the weight of a feeling, never and always here. I barely never stop hearing or seeing. Clearly I'm bereaving. I'm a big believer in grieving, you see. I've been saving up, looking up, loving tough. Enough. I was next to sell, between a ghost and a shadow, can't you tell? My shadow became my soil, my soul, my sun. My ghost was done. I was once more born. Big light, my life, my walk, my path is really not so dark. My steps were right. Much more was left, and then was now, and I am full and well, and I am my soul, and in my soil, my body whole. I love, I am filled, I am held, I grow, I flow. I know I am, oh, so I know I am still, always, yet never gone. Come on. Come on.
This is coming up as what I first heard Kate do.
Got a little classic way with the Benham on top now. It is called Escape from Jonestown. Yes, sir. Maybe missed my hard-earned chance. My hand slipped off an olive branch. You stumped to make haste. I don't trust my taste or my pace, hunting me with a bated breath. Not kept abreast of what's next. This life is not a test or a trial, I confess. I bit off more than I could chew, as you so wanted me to do. And if you are in it for the cake, I may just come unglued. Misconstrued news and an intuition by another through me for a loop. Don't confuse me, I tell myself. Don't seduce me by feeling felt by me. I tighten my belt and boots to step out, and here tears are measured by the falling rain. Makes my perspective change, saturated and refrain, masking my horror with a bare face. Sharing personal effects of health without asking them or myself what's been dealt. And I am my dilapidated shelter from a scary something else. A dilated pupil learning safety via stealth. And if I am to understand them, I must imagine standing in their shoes, and they mine too. But not only just in order to come and knocking on my boots. The price is this crisis in the circle of its news. The symptoms of the problem that I still can't quite deduce. Is it safe? Am I seeing straight? Will I feel replaced if I witness that stage? Or will his book lend me this page? Chased, I run away. Blunt ends may become feathered again as I spread my wings and stray. And fair weather fellas fear, making me most disinclined to stay. I'll not be a wet nurse cursed by compassion for one's thirst. I'm not Kuan Yin just cause you're a dragon. Damage from a past of lacking, so my abundant service valued first. No, sir. Carve me a path to peaceful union, please. I must remain whole for divine mercy. I implore the track record deplorable who is keeping score. Haunted by the thought of my possession, appalled at my blinders to disrespecting. So please excuse my dust unsettling. Faith in the faith of trust I'm wrestling. I can't grit my teeth and bear it, I'm too scared. Lord, spare me. Nervous system impaled by fright. Trust impaired by dangerous new heights. Please tucked under my overbite. Afraid to say that this is right. I'm a fly in the face of the facts he can't cover. I'm the last complex case his career will cover. I'm fed up to the molars, river will baby food on a rubber cover spoon from this phony saccharine. Supposed good actor churning bitter bits of attitude and will misinterpret me until I'm doomed. Each time I report to that room, stress levels balloon and I am on my best diction to be safe. Once I'd nearly escaped until another's loss fixed the election, left me no selection. I walk right back into his trap, but in the nick of time, there's a flaw in the latch. There's a fish on my line I've been dying to catch. Don't need to cast in his incisors, cause this practice preaches what I seek, and it doesn't meet. I feel desperate to retreat and not participate in the history repeat. Don't pretend to wear my boots, just give them back to me.
That was cool
I
though.
don't have to turn it off.
It'll just randomly come up. Okay, this is our last piece we had prepared on. It's called Cicadas. I mean, we could.
I don't know.
Yeah, we're definitely under 30 minutes. Okay. Oh, that's right. That's right. Oh, I'm just looking at the Okay. At the root is a nymph who feeds on its tree. It is much unlike a myth of a Greek deity. It's a little living thing, and once upon a long time, that was me. Early independence, yet nearly all my existence before I feel grown enough to fly. Before I feel grown enough to fly. See, I've spent a long time in darkness and deep within. I've been desperately seeking truth even when it's adamantly not been given. I've heard songs in the distance, and from under the surface, I lay and wait and listen. One day, it'll be the right time to truly come alive and be on the sun side of the rhythm. I am like the cicada, I am underneath. They are underground, and like their voices, I must be mindful of my pitch and sound. I must be patient with others' pace of transformation, but not sacrifice my flight. When on my tree I am finally found, cracking my shell and emerging, I must lift myself out, with or without. Periodical to perfection, 13 or 17 years unrelenting. My cycle is 19 and I am 38, which means my third rebirth is now commencing. Cicada totem speaks of the past with sweetness, sometimes a return of someone or chance to resolve to completeness. It sees the unseen and also teaches us to seek this, to repeat this cycle, this song, this fast pace that shifts us, this one I still trust. Wings expand the horizons. I'm exploratory. Life is brief, and grace in flight doesn't seem to come easy or with concrete security. But Cicada shows a way to fulfillment for me, which starts underneath and takes long and repeats, and they teach us to live each moment to the fullest, whether outspoken or speechless. Read this. The lines of this naked seamstress who flies around me in peculiar and seamless designs, then searching to find love before they soon die, having prepared for the next lives.
That's Kate Buckholdt and Dave Benham. I don't really need a microphone. Anyway, fantastic.
What I was the backing tracks for most of that was some software called ECB Rack, like put together all these virtual synthesizer patches, lots of modules. So, in case you're wondering.
Cool, very cool.
There you go. If you want to talk tech, check in with Dave.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
You got into that over COVID, right? I mean, you were like stuck home and.
Yes. Yeah, because I love playing. I mean, used to with Rob's open mics and playing with any artist I could get up there to coerce them to jam with me. And pandemic hit, I had no band to play with, so found the VCD rack and
Awesome.
kept me very occupied.
And I last saw these two cool cats down at Little Market Cafe, Ellicott City, Sundays. What's the timing on those open mics? Do you remember, Kate?
5 to 7 and
5 to 7.
in person at 4:30.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, sign in at 4:30. It is a true open mic, so you go in and sign up, and you get to play, pretty much, right? Anyway, we have another open micer that will be coming up in a little bit. That's Roisin, and we're going to welcome her to the stage next. So, but Kate, before you guys run, we do a little thing like. So, well, I want to know from you guys that just heard this show, this is their first time playing here. Should we bring them back?
Hell yeah! Woo!
Whoa, it's humanity. Even the dog's clapping. Susan, one thing I noticed, the birds were gathering as you guys were doing your thing. That's the Refuge giving you the heads up, absolutely. So just give us a few minutes, and we're going to get some more folks up here on the stage for you. Grab a beverage, something to eat, and we'll play a few tunes in the meantime. Enjoy. Thanks so much again, Dave. Dave Benham and Kate Buckholdt.